How are you? Good to see you.
I appreciate it.
Great to be
This
here.
is for you.
Thank you. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Well, let me just say first, thank you for allowing me to spend a few minutes with you all to talk about some of the questions that were actually submitted to me, but more importantly about where our city is going and how we're trying to make this one of the greatest cities in America in spite of all of the challenges that we face as a city. There were a lot of questions around schools, new buildings, how we are taking care of our buildings in the city. So I wanted to give you all just a little bit of history because I don't think that most people know. In 1997, a graduate, I believe Kurt Schmoke, the mayor at that time, is a graduate from Baltimore City College. Well, he was the mayor of the city. In 1997, the city was in need of about $500 million just for our schools. And at that time, the city would go to the state, like every other jurisdiction, and ask for additional dollars. And that money would come to the mayor, and the mayor would be able to transfer that money to the schools. But in 1997, then Mayor Kurt Schmoke was told, the only way that you can get this money is if you turn over control of the schools to the state. So what does that mean? What that means is that the city no longer controls the schools. The schools are actually funded, their funds, unlike if you were in Baltimore County, Prince George's County, Howard County, the money that the state would send you, you would have the authority, the mayor, to send it directly to the schools. It doesn't happen in Baltimore like that anymore. The money goes directly from the state to the school system. So what does that mean? So the school system has a $1.8 billion budget to take care of educating our children. Now what the city does is they get from the state $1.4 billion. We add another $500 million. So that's $1.9 billion. That's the entire operating budget for the school system. That's not your capital budget. Anybody know the difference between capital and operating? Somebody in here has to know. Does anybody know? Okay, so let me explain operating and capital. Operating budget is what we spend on you every day to operate the schools. Capital is your building. So you get money to take care of the buildings, money to take care of the day-to-day operation of the school. So, for example, the city gives you another $17 million to take care of school buildings. Last year, about 2 years ago, I was a state senator, and we said our school buildings are decrepit. We need new school buildings. And so as a senator, we went to the state and said, we need $1 billion to build 23 new schools in the city. So I think we built 2, 4 open up this year, 7 will open up next year. I built the first brand new school in the city in, I think it was about 4 years ago, the Baltimore Design School. Anybody familiar with the Baltimore Design School? The Baltimore Design School was a school that I started. It was the first brand new school built in the city in 30 years. And so now we're on track to build 23 new schools over the next 5 years. And I think by next year we'll be up to about 14 of those will be open, brand new schools in Baltimore City. So just to put that in perspective, you all have a $1.8 billion budget. That's what our city school CEO has to operate the day-to-day operation of the schools. The city's operating budget for fire, for police, for trash, for everything else, fixing streets, is $2.8 billion. That's for the entire city. So you put that in comparison to the $1.8 billion that goes directly to the school system to operate the school system. So I wanted to be clear on that because a lot of people asked about, how about more money for the schools? Every year we go to the state to get additional dollars and ask for more money for the schools. And there is a funding formula. And our hope is that this year that we'll be able to adjust the funding formula so that we can get more money for our children, for our school system. And the other question that I was asked about was public transportation, another thing that the city does not control. The Maryland Transportation Authority is another state agency. So we don't control public transportation, and no jurisdiction controls public transportation. It is controlled by the state. Last year, we lost $900 million because we had gotten it from the federal government to build a new transportation system for the city. And we lost that money. So we're now looking at how do we get additional dollars for our transportation system. How many people use subway to get to school? So you all know that the subway system is shut down. And so I called the governor and I said, we need some emergency money right now. Right now, because I have young people who catch the subway to get to school. Not just buses, but some of them use the subway system. So we were able to get $2.8 million from the state so that we could have buses that aren't running the best that they should, because I know those who are taking the subway understand that. But we've got about 3 or 4 months before that's fixed. But the question is, should we have shut down the subway system, or should we have just let it operate? And rather than run the risk of having a major accident, the state thought it appropriate to shut down the transportation system. And then let me just talk a little bit about safety in our schools. I know most of us mourn for the lives that were lost, the 17 lives that were lost by gun violence. And we don't ever want to see anything like that happen here in Baltimore. And so while we are adding additional police officers to the city, our police officers who operate within our school system are not allowed to carry guns into our school system, because we don't want to run the risk of somebody getting hurt, but at the same time, we want to make sure our young people are protected. So since I don't control the school system, what I do control is policy. For example, I've made Baltimore City Community College free. And the reason I did that is because many young people or families can't afford to send children to college. But at the same time, I believe that every child should have the opportunity to go to college if they so desire. How many young people in here participate in our YouthWorks program? So last year, I raised $14 million so that every child who applied to work would be able to work. And so we were pretty successful last year in putting 9,000 young people to work last summer. This year, when we opened up our portal and asked people to sign up, how many people have signed up for this year's YouthWorks? Thank you. What I want you to know is that on the first night that we opened up the portal, 2,000 young people had applied. In 1 week, 5,000 had applied. Thus far this year, 15,000 have applied. And so that means that I've got to raise $25 million at least to make sure that every child who wants to work gets to work. And the only way that happens is when I go out to the private sector and ask them to provide the funding so that our young people can work. Because I believe that every child who wants a job should have a job. We've also started another program for young people who want to work year-round. We're working on that. We also started a weekend program because I met a young man who asked me if he could get a job. So we've got about close to 100 young people who are working every weekend and being paid $10 an hour to work on the weekends. And so we're trying to do whatever we can to support the efforts of young people, because we believe that our future success is with you. And so we have a responsibility to do everything we can to lift you up and to push you forward. This year, I don't know if you all know this. Anybody know what May the 9th is? May 9th? That's interesting. May 9th, but these are, you all are freshmen? Okay, so you all should know that we're doing this. So this year, May the 9th, will be the first time this city, and so you all can get prepared for this 2 years from now, will be the first time the city will hold a jobs fair for graduating seniors. The first time. Because we need to know if you are going to college, if you're going to go to work, if you want to go into the armed services. We're creating an apprenticeship program for our police department. How many people know about our fire department apprenticeship program? Thank you. So we have an apprenticeship program for those who want to go into the fire department. We now have an apprenticeship program for those who want to go into the police department. This year, the police department, because we want more young people who live in our city to take the advantage of the opportunity to serve in our police department. So we'll be starting a cadet program at the 8th and through 9th grade level. Then from 10th to 12th grade level, there'll be a cadet program 1. And then when you graduate from high school, there'll be an apprenticeship program where you come out and start earning. You'll be paid in the internship programs, but you get paid in the apprenticeship program. Because does anybody know how old you have to be to become a police officer? 20 and a half, 21. So you can't even join the police department when you come straight out of high school. So what we're doing is you'll be able to join the apprenticeship program of the police department. So you'll serve as an apprentice but get paid and learn everything there is to know about policing. And then you'll go directly into the academy and be able to be a police officer. We do something similar like that with the fire department. What I'm requiring of our city agencies is that every single city agency do apprenticeship programs. And during the summer, hire young people in our city so that they can get the opportunity to learn about the $1 billion that we will spend over the next decade, billions, to rebuild our pipe system. When the 80 schools went offline and water pipes were bursting, the city does not control that. But our school system, in my opinion, is still my responsibility even though I'm not controlling it. So I took our departments, our agencies, I went to the private sector and got them to get those schools online. We had all but 8 schools online over the weekend, and the other ones we were able to get done in the following week. I share this with you all because you all are the messengers, you all are our young people, you are our influencers, you all are our future, and if you're not interested in what happens in our city, then who else will be? Because you all are living in our city. You see what's happening every day. So one of the things that we've done is open up our rec centers later on the weekends, because young people should have places to go. We're building 29 new rec centers across the city. More football fields, more baseball fields, more basketball courts, but also drone programs, dance programs, science programs inside of our rec centers, so that those experiences that you're not having in school, then we're still able to provide for them. How many people know Davon, who was on The Voice? Anybody follow him? So he's now working in our rec centers because we need to create opportunities for folks. We may not be able to guarantee you that you can get on The Voice, but you'll get able to compete with others. So we have all kinds of competitions that will be taking place this summer. We hope that you all will take advantage of them. And more importantly, we have a youth council that we get advice from. I don't know if anybody in here serves on the youth council. Thank you. Because we listen, we have to hear from them. They prepare reports, they send us suggestions. And if you all have suggestions as a school, some of the things that we should be doing for young people, make sure that he gets that information so that he shares it with us. So having said that, I'll open myself up for questions, but say to you all, please get engaged. Please care about each other, because you never know who's sitting beside you. You don't know their lot in life. I met a young man who was 14 years old, standing on the corner at 10 a.m. in the morning. I pulled up and I asked him, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm just trying to make a little money." I said, "I need you to go to school. I need you to go to school now." He immediately went off to school. But that morning, that evening at 9:30, when I was on my way home, I saw him sitting on the sidewalk of Pennsylvania Avenue. And I pulled over and I asked him, "Where do you live? Why are you sitting here on the sidewalk at 9:30 at night?" He says, "I'm waiting for my mother." I said, "Well, where is she?" I said, "Let me take you home." He said, "No, I'm okay." I said, "Well, give me your school." And he gave me the address of his school. I went up to his school the next day. I asked him, I said, "What can I do to help you?" He said, "I need a job. 14 years old, I need a job." I said, "I'll help you get a job." A day later, I see him with his mother in the middle of Martin Luther King Boulevard, begging for money and food. He ran over to the car and he said, "Mom, this is the mayor." She said, "This ain't no mayor." She said, "This is the mayor." She came up to my school to see about me. What I want you to know is that he was homeless. 5 children, homeless. And so we now have gotten him housing, and his mother. She's drug addicted. And the reason I share this story with you all is because you don't know who's sitting beside you, what problems they may have, what issues they may have. And I tell people, don't judge. Don't judge. Mentor. Ask how you can help, because you never know when you might need help one day in life. It may not be your brother. It may not be your sister. It could be your neighbor. And it could end up being you. Because only by the grace of God it can be any of us. So I ask you to care about each other, to love one another, and to be the leaders that we know within you that you can be. Thank you for the opportunity to share. So I'll take 2 or 3 questions. Anybody? Yes, I saw this hand first. Yes, sir.
What can you say, or what is your opinion about the bill to ban full contact sports in schools?
Again, I think that, first of all, the mayor doesn't control that, your school board does. And I think that when students speak up and speak out and make their voices heard, then the school system has a responsibility to listen. How many people know when the school board meets? I know you know. Tell them when the school board meets. Every other Tuesday. When you have an issue, and the school board needs to hear from you. Go down, take people with you, and express your thoughts. Because you saw what happened, and our prayer is that those in Congress will hear those voices about guns and change those laws. But if we don't hear from you, action doesn't take place. So be the leader that I know you can be. Yes, ma'am.
This is going to be a little bit, I don't know if it's going to be touchy or not, but What is your personal opinion on mental health issues?
So the question she asked me is, what are my personal opinions on mental health issues? So one of the things that we started doing with our police officers specifically is giving them mental health training, because we believe that officers oftentimes may approach somebody and don't realize. In fact, I was approached 2 days ago by a woman who had a child who has autism. And she said, I need some help because he's tall, and the way that a police officer would approach him, he may not even understand what's being said. So what we're doing now with our police officers is giving them that kind of training. But I also think that because we've had so much violence in our city, and when you think about lead paint poisoning and all the other issues that our children have had to face, that we should have mental health services in our schools and social workers. When I built the first new school, Baltimore Design School in Baltimore City, we have a health suite inside our school. And so we have enough institutions in this city. You think about Johns Hopkins, University of Maryland, they should be providing those services for us. So I'm a very strong advocate for mental health services, because it's not just about what happens in the moment. It's about how it impacts you in your life. And so thank you for that question. I'll take one more question. Yes, ma'am.
I understand, you're trying to keep guns out of Baltimore City schools, but guns aren't the only way to protect students. So how would you keep police from abusing their other powers?
So she asked me, what she said was that while we're trying to keep guns out of our schools, that's not the only problem. How do we make sure that we protect our young people, or our city, really, as it relates to policing? So here's something that you all should know. When I came into office, we received a 163-page report from the Department of Justice. And that report said that we needed to reform our police department. And when this president got elected, people said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about that report. You don't have to put together a consent decree, because he's not going to sign it, and it doesn't matter. But what I knew was after Freddie Gray, and the report didn't talk about just Freddie Gray, it went back 10 years around police training that needed to be reformed. The police officers have to have respect for the community, and the community for the police, but respect is earned. And so we have a whole new community engagement effort inside of the police department. We have new training, and you'll see, and that's why the whole idea of cadet programs and PAL programs, those didn't emanate from the community, it emanated from the police department, because they realized that change needs to take place. And I believe that the police chief, Commissioner D'Souza, that I've chosen, is all about reform, and I think you'll see more interaction with the community, with the police. We also have what we call a community engagement team and a monitoring team that monitors the activities of the police department. Let me say thank you all for this opportunity to share, and more importantly, I look forward to your successful future. Thank you.